Punks are crashing, apes are rising, and Adidas is officially part of the metaverse.
Is a blue chip really a blue chip? We're going to unpack how to invest in this current NFT market on, Goats in the Metaverse. Stanley, how are you, my man?
Welcome to Goats in the Metaverse, brother. I am doing well, and I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to see you, and I'm excited to talk about all things NFTs. How you doing?
I'm good. I mean, I had FOMO. You went to Art Basel this week, so lots to unpack there. I saw lots of tweets, pictures, Instagram posts. Looks like it was one hell of a week in Miami, and seems like talk of the town wasn't just art, it was really NFT art. NFT, all over Miami. So looks like NFTs are taking over the mainstream and really becoming a thing that has infiltrated all parts of culture.
I would say you're correct. Miami was filled with crypto billionaires and NFT millionaires, and the conversation was all about crypto and NFTs, and rightfully so. I had a great time in Miami. I'm a little upset to be back in New York City, but I had a lot of interesting conversations, met a lot of interesting people, and yeah, NFTs are here to stay. They are not going anywhere, and it really looks like people are doing very innovative things, and I'm excited to see how they all pan out.
Speaking of NFTs that aren't going anywhere, let's have a look at my favorite part of the show. What's going on with our Goat Vault this week? And for a reminder, if you're new to the show, the Goat Vault is where we participate in all the upcoming new NFT drops. We're investing our own hard-earned cash to buy our community some NFTs, locking those away. Say that again.
I said hard-earned ETH.
Our hard-earned ETH, locking it away into some NFTs for you, our favorite community, to win. Today, the Goat Vault is worth $58,252. We invested about $3,500 so far. We have some goats. We have some Jenkins the Valet, World of Women, some cool cats. You name it, it's in the vault. And the easiest way for you to win is just by subscribing to the show. When we get to 5,000 subscribers, we will unlock the vault for one lucky winner to win those juicy NFTs. So smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, retweet the show, and get us to those 5,000 subscribers so you can win those NFTs. Let's go back to Art Basel. Stanley, tell us more what happened.
So I got a chance to check out Decentraland Miami, which was a crypto conference, crypto/NFT conference, bunch of different stages, bunch of different exhibits, a lot of cool digital art. And yeah, I mean, it's funny because I had a conversation with somebody I randomly met that was an art dealer, and they said, is NFTs really big enough to have their own conference? There was actually two conferences happening at the same time in Miami, and they were both packed. It was a 3.5-hour wait just to get in, and a lot of value. There's still a lot of people that are kind of planning, building. Our game is launching very soon. Our platform is coming very soon, but things are moving really, really fast. My takeaways from Decentraland is a lot of play to earn. It seems like play to earn is going to be what the conversation is going to be in 2022. A lot of different games that are coming out, a lot of different platforms, and a lot of focus that I saw was on play to earn. Also got a chance to check out Scope Miami, which is an art show on the beach. And listen, the artwork there was absolutely gorgeous. There was actually some NFT projects presenting. Hash Masks was there, and they had a booth, and they were talking about their project, and they actually have agreed to come onto our show. So we'll be looking forward to interviewing them and speaking to them hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And also a lot of interesting conversation with just artists about how are they going to utilize NFTs in the future. Art dealers, they're thinking about how to make their artists be relatable in the digital world, in the NFT space. Those were my favorite conversations and kind of my favorite takeaways. And also just got a chance to hang out with a bunch of people in the space and get their inputs of what are the blue chips, what is going to go up, what is going to go down, what is going to survive. And I think the conversations are still the same, right? A lot of projects long term are going to fail. The ones that are going to win big. And like, what are those projects? What can you still, can you still kind of make money day trading NFTs? And I know you and I are going to get into some of these things a little bit later in the show. But I think the conversations we're having on the show are happening on a day-to-day basis. And it was great to see a lot of different NFT projects throwing crazy parties and cool art exhibits and doing a lot of collaborative stuff, and the community is obviously supporting them.
The community was out in full force at Art Basel, still going on till tomorrow. Let's see how the market has responded to all the activity and excitement by looking at the top 10 of the past week. And what we can see here is big rises, but many have dropped. In our top 3 spots, Axie Infinity, the Sandbox, that's new, in number 2, and Bored Ape Yacht Club holding strong. That's the top 3. And then we have Wolf Game and CryptoPunks now in the number 5 spot. Let's unpack that. What's interesting? What happened? What could have contributed to these moves? Talk of the town is Bored Ape Yacht Club. Stanley, what happened in the Bored Ape Yacht Club world?
Well, you know what? Bored Ape Yacht Club made a very, very, very big announcement. Well, I guess Adidas made a very big announcement that they bought a Bored Ape, and they also bought land in the Sandbox. And I think number 2 and 3 of some of the reasons of why the Sandbox is number 2 now. And they're doing a collab. Adidas is doing a collab with G Money, who is actually on this show. Shout out to G Money for doing a crazy collab. Punks Comics and Bored Ape are all doing a collab with Adidas in the Metaverse. We know merch is involved. We know it's in the Metaverse, but that's all we really know right now.
What we saw popping up on Twitter is all these apes with Adidas sweaters being covered in that. And then we had G Money, Punks Comic, and a Bored Ape flying through the Metaverse in this new ad that Adidas put together. They used their logo as a W and said, WAGMI, we're all going to make it, tributing to the crypto Twitter culture. And Twitter kind of blew up and exploded with all of this activity. Adidas is a huge brand coming into the space with a partnership with Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I just want to remind people about this brand. It started in March this year. It's still only a 9-month, May this year? Oh, I even got it wrong. So it's younger than I even thought. May this year, it is still only a brand that hasn't even existed for a year and has become a cultural, global phenomenon. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, with something rising to this kind of fame so quickly. If you just take the floor price of all the Bored Apes, Mutant Apes, etc., you're looking at a $5 billion brand. $5 billion brand created in under a year. That is exceptional. You just got to give credit to the Bored Ape team and give credit to Adidas for moving quickly and figuring out that this is their play. Other brands look like they're pretty much sleeping.
Yeah, a couple things there. I mean, the floor of Bored Apes right now is at 50 ETH, which is equivalent to about $225,000. If I recall correctly, on this show, I said it's only a matter of time until a brand like Nike buys a Bored Ape and does a collab with them. I was off base there. I was wrong. I thought it was going to be Nike. It turns out to be Adidas coming into the space, buying an ape, and now building a brand with an ape as part of the logo. And that's why I believe the brand is powerful. I mean, it is a cultural phenomenon. People are grasping onto it. We had more people, famous people, buy apes this week. We had Future, Rich the Kid. People are buying their apes and they're flexing, right? They're flexing like they're flexing with that Lambo. They're flexing like they're flexing with that Rolex. And it's like the move. You got to buy the ape and change your profile picture on your social media channels and say that you're part of the community. And that's kind of going to be the other part I was going to say is it's the community that you got to really give a lot of props to because they're the ones that are really driving this movement. What do you think, Yossi? The community gets the props?
The community. We have spoken about that time and time again. But what makes this community different to maybe other communities that we've spoken about, or even the CryptoPunk community, is that they have an incentive to be so active. They have the incentive not only because they potentially hold a Bored Ape, but they have the incentive because they own the full commercial rights to that ape. So you're seeing collaborations, you're seeing people creating writers' room to tell stories, comics, movies, productions, all happening around the apes because there is tremendous upside in them doing so. So instead of a brand of maybe 10, 20, 50 people, I don't know how many people are at Yuga Labs, you now have a brand of 30,000 people that are thinking every single day about how they could be activating their apes, their Mutant Ape Yacht Club, their Bored Ape Kennel Clubs, all of their characters to go out and create additional value. Now that is powerful. That creates network effects, and that's why something like Bored Apes can do so much in such a short period of time, which goes to our conversation on something we haven't seen since the start of the show. We have the CryptoPunks who, for the first time in a 30-day trend, are not in the top 3. And we saw the CryptoPunks price drop about a month ago. It was at 150 ETH. You could sell. That was the floor price for a CryptoPunk. Today, that floor price is at 71 ETH. That's quite a dramatic change for what is considered to be a blue chip project. If you bought in a month ago, you are down significant dosh. And even the ETH price went from 3,000 to 4,600. So you are down twice if you came in a month ago. What does that tell us about blue chips? What does that tell us about what the market is telling us about something like CryptoPunks? Stanley, what do you think?
I mean, look, the CryptoPunk is still the OG, not one of the OGs. They are the OG. I still believe it's a solid investment. And I mean, I kind of would put it out on the other side. All these conversations are about apes. Is now a good time to jump in and buy a punk because maybe that's where the value is. You're able to buy a punk at a discount. I think there's two different ideologies there, right? Apes are a hot brand. The community is driving that brand. And I think the people that are the punks holders are kind of just like, we're sitting back, right? It's a long-term hold. My punk's going to be in a museum one day. Which I do believe that, right? Is an ape going to be in a museum? Maybe, but is every ape going to be in a museum? Or maybe some of these apes are going to be brands that we're going to interact with on a regular day basis, and that's going to be its claim to fame. It's an interesting conversation. I believe in both. I do understand, and you and I had this conversation this morning. I said, well, here's the other part of it. Punks don't have a royalty tied into it, right? So is that a reason why they're not out there and hiring people and having a marketing team and having a party in Miami during our Basel and flying helicopters and private planes and yachts? Or is it just not their brand and not their character? And they're just like, we're the first ones. We don't really have to do anything else because the conversation's always going to be like, well, who's the ones that started this? And the answer is always the same: punks.
I think when I think about it, we see a lot of parallels to the broader crypto market. We have the same debate with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and now even Solana as a new up and comer. And that conversation is very much like Bitcoin is sound money. It does one job. It's not supposed to be this fast, innovative, changing all the time platform, because people want to know that it's reliable, that this is what it does and this is how it works, and it will always have that status. So the Bitcoin OGs, the Bitcoin maximalists are like, well, this is the way it is. We don't need to worry about what happens in the Ethereum world. We don't have to happen what happens in the Solana world. And then you have the technologists who come out and say, well, that's not going to work because technology is going to outpace you. We need innovation. We need new changes. We need all the stuff that's happening, and Ethereum is ultimately going to flip Bitcoin because of all this excitement. I almost see that parallel playing out with punks, kind of staying cool, kind of saying, we did what we did. We've got our 10,000 collection. Nothing more needs to happen. You want to own a piece of history. You want to own an iconic collection. You want to own a Picasso. You want to own something that is going to just appreciate with value. CryptoPunks are that. You want to own something that, they have to throw yacht parties, have big brands come on board, make this whole kind of commercial play, and go and own a ape. But long term, you need a lot of activity to continue to support that. So it's interesting to see how that will play out and what will happen there. But what the market is definitely telling us is there's a lot of excitement about that activity and an adjustment of excitements on the punk. And maybe you're right. We had Nifty Nick on our show saying that what he does is he compares the punk ape price and that ratio and tracks that. And that ratio is now looking pretty close to 1-to-1. So maybe it's the time to sell an ape and buy a punk.
So putting you in the spot right now, let's say you have to make that decision. Are you buying the ape or are you buying the punk? Personally,
I'm selling the ape and I'm buying the punk.
So that's like OG status. I believe I played a long-term game, and I think the question is, if somebody asked me that question, that what I would ask them question is, what is your goal, right? Are you kind of playing the 3-year game, the 5-year game, the 10-year game, or are you playing the 25-year game?
I just think history rhymes, and we've seen it. Okay, punks had their hype moment. They went up to 150 ETH floor, and now they're down to 71. Long term, that's probably going to appreciate. But if you're trying to accumulate ETH and accumulate a collection, you're going to make some decisions. And I think Bored Apes are having that same moment in time, like the punks. There's a lot of excitement because of this Adidas deal and all these celebrities entering in. You're able to sell today at a 50 ETH floor, some higher. I would be thinking, and that's probably what I'm going to do. And if you recall, I bought my first ape on this show. So I think it's time to flip one of our apes and flip it into a punk.
Wow, you heard it here first. Flipping an ape and buying a punk.
Boom.
I don't hate it. I mean, it's diversifying your portfolio, right? Like that's the other point of it. Now you have, an ape and a punk. But here's the other side of it, right? Like that utility, right? Because we talk about utility and we talk about community. I mean, to me personally, I love utility and I love community. Like that to me are like the two driving forces of why I love the space and why I love NFTs. And you can't replicate what's happening in the Bored Ape Yacht Club. You can't replicate that community and you can't replicate that utility because here we go, right? Adidas,
That's true.
Huge brand, right? Like one of the biggest brands out there bought one and now they're in the space, right? Like now, like who knows what they could build from there, right? You're talking about a company with huge ad dollars and a huge reach, and they might create a crazy business, a crazy profitable business just by selling this merch, and they have the rights to do so because they own this ape.
Yeah, and I think that's the play, and that's why people are excited about it. So if you believe in that, then you should be buying an ape, and the time is now, and it's early, and this can only go up. And if you think that a little bit of exuberance is going to go a little bit further, but then ultimately that excitement dies down, and attention draws out where then you might be selling and trying to redeploy. Maybe in that conversation, well, let's go beyond these blue chips and see, well, who are the fast risers? Who are the new up-and-comers that we're looking at and that you should be paying some attention to? We've seen a couple that are starting to look interesting, and I think our audience may be interested in knowing more about. Stanley, what are you eyeing out?
Doodles is definitely a really fast riser. In the last 30 days, they're number 9. This is a project that is very, very new and has a vibrant community that is really, really in love with the project, in love with the art. Legitimate artist, the art is cool. Real deal team who's been in the space since 2017. And what they're also doing is they're taking 50% of the revenues off royalties, and they're letting the community put together proposals of how to spend that money. And simple idea, but an interesting idea of how you get the community involved. And some of those proposals are, let's buy more doodles, let's buy punks, let's buy apes, and some of them could be a lot more innovative and creative, and maybe a big giant boat party. I'm not following exactly what they're talking about, but here you have an opportunity, right? You have an opportunity of how to utilize the community to build a brand, and I do think the artwork is cool and different. Especially, if somebody asked me this question that's new to the space: why is everything an animal, right? Like, why are we so and I can't answer that question, right? Like I think there's almost a lack of innovation from the perspective of like, we have to do another ape, right? We have to do another version of another ape or another lion or whatever the successful project is. I get the simplicity behind it, but I do think that's kind of why Doodles is winning. He took something that's relatable, that the art resonates with people that they're trying to target.
I agree with that, and it seems like simpler art that stands out is doing well more than kind of these more complex projects. And the Doodles community definitely growing strong. Another area where we're looking, or that I've been looking at and acquiring quite a lot of pieces, is on different chains. Most of what we're talking about today is Ethereum. Tezos is a platform that, similar to Ethereum, is a base layer blockchain and has a lot of activity from new up-and-coming artists and creators. It's a very low-cost chain, so you're not paying $70, $150, sometimes $300 to mint an NFT. And a new platform that is focused on generative art called fxhash. It launched a few days ago, maybe a week ago, and I've never seen such fast product market fit. We're seeing exceptional artists, generative artists coming onto the platform at record speed. For those of you familiar with art blocks, and we even have a comment and a question from FR on thoughts on art block, fxhash is doing what art blocks does, but on the Tezos platform. The difference, though, is that there is no centralized curation. There isn't a central gatekeeper who's kind of curating what comes onto the fxhash platform. The community gets to curate who comes on and decides on that. So we've been acquiring a number of fxhash pieces. If you see what's happened with something like a Fidenza on art blocks, trading at like a 99 ETH floor, we've got some exceptional artists coming onto Tezos, much lower price points. And I think in the future, in a couple of months' time, or maybe in a couple of years' time, there's not going to be such a big premium on whether you bought on a Tezos blockchain versus an Ethereum blockchain, because we're going to live in a multi-chain world. Wallets will be able to support all of the chains, and it's going to be about the artist. It's going to be about the community. It's going to be less about whether it was something that was bought on Ethereum or Tezos or Solana or any of those. So I think if you're paying attention, playing and looking at those types of plays is where you'll start seeing some premium alpha coming up.
So if you're stacking ETH, if you're in the stacking ETH game, which we talked about on the show numerous of times, is that something that makes you worried that there's other chains? And obviously we know there's other chains, right? And we know Solana's making a push. At Decentraland in Miami, I spoke to a few different NFT projects that launched in Solana, and that was kind of my question: why? In my mind, it's kind of like, you know, if I'm launching a project, I'm launching it on Ethereum just because there's more people that are familiar with it. I'm more familiar with it, right? It's almost,
Yeah.
maybe it's the easier solution, right? But it's also the more proven solution. So what does that mean for Ethereum if in a couple of years it might not matter which chain you launch on?
The way I think about it is, think of a populous city. You live in a populous city, does more roads, more infrastructure, more trains, more planes, more access to that city increase the value of the city or decrease the value of the city? Well, what actually happens is that all these on-ramps increases the value of the city because you now have more activity coming towards it. So I think of these other chains, Solana, Tezos, whatever chain, Avalanche, Near, as these other protocols. There'll be lots of activity, and that's in the suburbs. That's people out living in the suburbs, doing a whole bunch of activity, but eventually everything leads back to some point coming into the main city. So you start on Tezos and you start trading art on Tezos, you start getting familiar with a wallet, you get familiar with what does it mean to actually hold this currency, to buy an NFT. And at some point, you're going to be like, oh, this NFT over here looks interesting. Oh, that's on Ethereum. I now need to figure out how to go onto Ethereum. And you're just growing the overall market and pie of people that are active and trading and in this economy. And ultimately, that'll be net beneficial for Ethereum because you just have more of these on-ramps of people ultimately coming onto the Ethereum network in one way or another. So I don't see it as a threat to Ethereum. I see that there is so much demand that all of these chains need to coexist, but ultimately Ethereum will hold that kind of OG status when you're looking at these high value transactions that you want to make sure is one on one of these main chains like an Ethereum.
No, I mean, that is a very good job explaining it, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And I get the the counter argument of like, well, we want to launch on Solana because if we're the best product on that network, we're going to get a lot more love, right? We have a smaller pool to kind of sell to, but there's less competition as well. So I do think that makes a lot of sense. Also, one other project I wanted to mention that's a fast riser, Vox Collectibles. There was a big spike this week. They announced that they're having another release with a new Vox product called Miranda Vox, which is going to be in game, and Gala Games is the one that's behind this. Gala Games was another product all over Miami, and the community seems to like it. The funny thing is, I believe that when Vox Collectibles launched, they were not as successful. They had a very, very, very slow rise in the very beginning. There was not a lot of secondary market action, and but slowly, people are getting more and more into Vox Collectibles. They're playing the game. They're earning a currency called the Town Coin, and maybe somebody to pay attention to, especially if you're a gamer, and especially if you think like we do that 2022 is going to be the play to earn era of NFTs.
Last fast mover that's on my side, we have Braindrops. Braindrops is a new AI driven platform and artwork. Basically, that means that the AI, the machines, are creating the art. AI is a new category. It is a category that I think will become more legitimate over time, like we're seeing generative art having its moment and people starting to appreciate what is generative art being able to create. AI art is going to become a whole new segment. And if you are looking for some early participation, Braindrops is a new platform that is exclusively focused on AI art. I would go and swipe up some of those Genesis drops, some of the first creations that are there. there are some exciting, well-known and well-respected AI artists. The Lost Robbies by Robbie Barrett is considered the most iconic NFT collection and has consistently been trading by above $1 million. Botto is another drop. It's an autonomous AI agent created by AI artist Mario Klingman that trades between 35 to 100 ETH. And Helena Sarin has sold pieces for over 118 to 200 ETH. So those are three of the creators that are dropping on Braindrops. So AI-focused art is definitely having its moment. And the platform has some really notable creators behind it. Justin Timble, Punk2513, and Gene Kogan are the founders of Braindrops. So we're very excited about the platform. And I think that AI generated art is somewhere where, it's still early. People are not talking about AI generated art all over the place. It's number 51 in the movers for the day. So it's starting to see some good upward potential. I'd be looking at Braindrops if I was you.
And you heard it here first. That is, I think, the most important part. And I think a good segue into talking about artists who are having a heck of a 24 hours. And I don't even think it's 24 hours. I think it's more like 18 hours. Is Pac, who launched a project on Nifty yesterday, and over 246,000 NFTs already sold and counting. And we did the math, over $85 million in sales. Is that correct?
That is correct. We saw Puck enter the scene with Lost Poets of recent and did a $50 million sale, and now broken that record with an $85 million sale. There's still 30 hours to go in this open edition. What that means is that you can mint an unlimited number of NFTs for 48 hours. Puck is actually the creator, or the kind of, I think he's the creator of that concept of an open edition. And the being able to kind of accumulate that side, and seeing him play into that type of thesis with this concept called merge. And what merge does is that you're able to acquire any one of the Puck NFTs, and as you acquire more than one, they merge together to create mass. And mass, the more Puck NFTs that you put together, the more of these merge drops that you put together, the heavier the mass, the heavier the density of your NFT. That's the theory. So every time you go and acquire another one, your mass gets higher. And then you transfer that to the next wallet and the mass gets higher. And it reduces the overall supply of these NFTs. So theoretically, you could have someone going into the market saying, I want to be the only one, and go and buy every single one of these other NFTs. And then there is only one mass of these NFTs that have all been merged together. So that's the gamification that's there. That's why it's an interesting project. A little bit exciting, a little bit of gamification, a lot of hype around it. We'll see how it plays out. Puck also has a token called Ash and has alluded to people who hold certain amounts of these NFTs will get awarded Ash. Ash is trading at about $50 today. It was trading about $2 about 5 months ago. So people are excited about the Ash token, and everything that Puck has touched so far has turned into gold. So that's why we're seeing so much enthusiasm. And maybe the last point on that is, often we see with these drops is that they're on Ethereum. And that can be a barrier. What Nifty Gateway does where this drop is happening is you can pay with your credit card. And I don't know what the breakdown of those transactions are, but I can guess that a lot of people brought out their plastic to buy the Puck drop instead of trading on ETH. And that just opened up the market even more. There we go. Stanley, you were one of them. I did that as well.
Well, two points I want to make. One, I reached out to a bunch of buddies of mine who are want to get into the space, don't want to go through the whole process of Coinbase to MetaMask, buying an OpenSea. And I said, hey guys, here's your opportunity. It's $400. It's a low point of entry to get into the market, and you could use your credit card. And I agree. They did it, and I think that's like that's a big advantage of dropping on that platform, especially when you're considered, and this is the second point I want to make, top 3 artists out there. I mean, from Xcopy, Pac, and Huckatu, the conversations I'm having and based on my research are kind of the top 3 OG guys in the space and guys that could really, move that needle. And here you go. Here he's doing it, and to accomplish $85 million and counting in less than 18 hours is incredible.
It is incredible, and it shows the demand for ingenuity, creativity, and for name brands in the space. People are looking at who they think are going to be those iconic creators and are willing to deploy a lot of cash behind them. So well done to Puck. We look forward to tracking the progress of this drop, of Lost Poets, of Ash. And as always, we will keep you updated as we learn more and as we discover more about this metaverse that Puck is creating. I participated in the drop. I'm particularly excited about it. I think there's a lot of potential there. So we'll see how it goes. Stanley, what do you think the future of trading looks like? Where are you today? For our listeners, seeing all of this activity, what's happening, blue chips dropping, a lot of fear in the market. What are you trading? What are you doing?
I mean, I'm obviously paying attention to new projects that are happening. I do think that the blue chips, look, there's a lot of theories, right? If you buy some of these blue chips, or conversation we had a few minutes ago in the show, if you were to buy a CryptoPunk right now, you're kind of buying it cheap, right? And if you look at where that punk might be in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's probably going to be very cheap. My strategy on blue chips has always been long-term holds. I do speculate. I'm not gonna lie. But here's the I got an email the other day, today. What do you know about this project? A project I've never heard of. And I said, I've never heard of it. And they said, well, should I buy it? I said, honestly, if I've never heard of it, you probably shouldn't buy it. It was 0.001 or whatever it was. So even if you're a lot of people are trying to get into the space and they want to spend money, right? They want a point of entry. But you're buying trash, you're buying shit, right? And even if you're speculating, unless you really, really, really understand the market, which if you're a newbie, you don't, you're gonna lose. So isn't a better way to either save your money and buy something that's a little bit more sound, or buy a fractionalized share of a punk or an ape or something along those lines? I mean, looking at it and thinking about it, I believe 80% of your investment should be in blue chips, and 20% of them should, 10% of those should be in speculation, and the other 10% of it could be in, medium tier projects. What about you?
Well, it depends on your risk appetite. You could make the counter argument that you want to go big in the space and you want to take a small percentage of your money. I don't know what that as a percentage of your net worth is, and you want to go for the highest risk, highest return profile that you can. And that means potentially making bets earlier at new projects, new up-and-coming creators. I think something like accumulating art on Tezos as an example, as opposed to on Ethereum, or looking at Avalanche, looking at Near, looking at Solana, looking at these new chains that are gaining a lot of momentum, could provide an opportunity for far greater returns if that's what you're in it for. And allow you to eventually trade up into something like a punk and go for those type of blue chip assets. If that's not your game, that's not your profile, you're like, I want to get some exposure to this. I just want to be able to pick one thing, forget about it for the next 5 years and not have to think about it ever again, then I agree. Taking that, looking at a CryptoPunk or a fraction of a CryptoPunk, maybe a Bored Ape, maybe a Tyler Hobbs for Denza, or something like that. and go put your money there and forget about it for the next 5 years. But if you're trying to find a way to accumulate rapidly, I think there's some great opportunities in these new side chains where there's less activity. They're not integrated into OpenSea yet. There's a little bit more complexity in trying to buy them and accumulate them, but that tide and will change as the technology improves. So that's where I'm spending my time and focus and thinking and seeing what is out there. And as soon as I find it, telling you about it here on the show.
So what is? I mean, let's break that down a little bit. Like, what does that research look like? Right? Somebody that's watching the show and they're like, all right, well, that sounds interesting. I have some time. Where do they start their search? How there's so many different chains. There's so many different new platforms. How do you kind of narrow down?
Yeah, I would say pick one. So if it's Solana, pick Solana. Get immersed into the Solana ecosystem. See where the artists are. What are they creating? Join those Discord groups. Start having conversations with them. Build relationships. Seeing, what new drops are you getting a part of? Figuring out what is happening and just immerse yourself in that single chain as opposed to trying to figure out Solana, Avalanche, Near, Tezos. If it's Tezos, do the same thing. My vote is, when investing in crypto, I follow the developers. Where are the developers and where are they building? That's where I'm investing. In NFTs, I follow the artists. Where are the artists? Where are they deploying? And where are they excited? And I'm hearing a lot of excitement about new artists, new creators working on Tezos. That's where I'm seeing the activity. So I'm spending my time figuring out more of that ecosystem and learning it and discovering and being part of that community to see where I think there's some great opportunities for us to participate.
And is there any reason why they like that chain? Is there any kind of thinking behind it?
Yeah, I think Tezos had Hick. I can't pronounce the full name. Probably one of the worst branding names. Hicknick or something like that. There was a project, kind of the Wild West of art. Anyone could create anything. Anyone could collect anything. And had a very, very grassroots movement of artists building there. Again, it's very low cost, so you could experiment very easily. That platform got taken down. The creator of it kind of just said, I'm done, and disappeared. And immediately, a new platform emerged and was recreated. fxhash came on board, and there's new technology being built in it. So I think that gave artists a lot of confidence that this is here to stay. And this is a playground where experimentation can be done very easily, very cost effectively, and it's more inclusive for anyone to start participating. So that's starting to see a real community of people building on the Tezos chain. I don't own any Tezos, so it's not like I'm trying to pump my own bags or anything like that. This is what I'm seeing. So I think there's an interesting emergence there. A lot of activity all still happening on Ethereum, and we're seeing that big drops like Artifact and CloneX happening on the Ethereum chain, which we can talk more about. But where the new artists are, the new creators are, I think that's where I find it interesting.
So how do you, and this whole industry is super speed, right? It's not even like you're in a Ferrari driving, like, maybe not even a Ferrari. Maybe you're driving the not nicest car in the world, but you're still going 150 miles per hour. There's no brakes. It's moving really, really, really fast. And how do you navigate that whole thing, right? Like, how do you, I know you said spend your energy on one, but then the alpha keeps moving, right? Even Nifty Nick, we had him on the show and he was like, Solana, right? Ethereum is slow, we're moving to Solana, right? So how do you manage all that?
Again, I think it's really just picking one and being in it. Like, these things are going to be here for the next 10 years, immersing yourself in it, spending the time on that one, and really getting to learn it, and you will find the alpha. It doesn't matter which one you choose, just pick one and commit to it, whether it's Ethereum, Solana, Tezos. Just get involved in those communities and you will start to learn how they move, what is happening, and where to get involved. And immersing yourself in it is the only answer I have. There is no shortcut to it. Otherwise, you are just buying someone else's bags and you are on the other end of that trade. So they're profiting off your pretty much ignorance.
So the other side of it is there's enough alpha out there. all
Exactly.
all in the metaverse, right? So it's there. You just have to find it and put in the time, effort, and energy to make it work. So if you're buying land in the sandbox, if you're trading, selling NFTs on Solana or some of these other platforms or Ethereum, it's there. You just have to find it, spend that time to make it work. You agree with that statement?
That's it.
That's it. It's easy. So everybody that's watching, all you need to do is do the work or watch our show.
All you need to do is do the work. Exactly. Let's talk lastly about a big drop that happened this past week. People who did the work, Artifact Studios, spelled RTFKT. Most people don't know that it's actually Artifact. They dropped their PFP project that they have been hyping up for the past few months, a project called Clone X. It was their attempt at an avatar project. For those of you who don't know who Artifact is, they are one of the first digital merch brands. What you got in this drop was a CloneX mint file that gave you the option to be able to get the avatars that will be dropping, I think, the beginning of next week. People who owned a Artifact item in the past, whether that was a digital pair of shoes or one of their pigeons or any of their original items, were able to pre-mint these CloneX mint files for 0.05 ETH. And could do 3. So you had 11,800 sell before the drop. Sorry, 10,800 sell before the drop that happened this week. And then if you were someone who didn't own any Artifact items, you could participate in the drop on a Dutch auction starting at 3 ETH. Very cheekily, every half an hour would drop by only 0.1 ETH. What happened? Well, the drop didn't go so well. What they claim is that they were getting hacked and people couldn't access the drop. I was one of them. I couldn't access it. Eventually, I got access to it. And what they thought would sell out in minutes didn't actually happen. We saw the price go from 3 ETH down to 2.9 to 2.8 to 2.7. And all the people who had these mint files from the pre-drop started selling them on OpenSea at less than the price on the drop. And this kind of game carried on happening. It would drop by 0.1 ETH. Everyone on OpenSea would drop their mint file price by 0.2 ETH. And everyone just started waiting for the other. Well, if it's cheaper on OpenSea, why don't I wait to see what happens on the drop? And that continued to happen. Eventually, the Artifact team saying, because of all the fudders, all the hacks, and everyone in their Discord group, they paused the Dutch auction at the 2.5 ETH price and said that they would tell everyone what they were going to do the next day, blaming it on the hacks, saying that because no one could get into the site, the Dutch auction wasn't happening. And the next morning announced that they were no longer going to do a Dutch auction. They were going to sell it at a flat price of 2 ETH. So anyone who bought before at the 3 ETH price, me included, was effectively screwed and able to now pick up the same piece for 2 ETH. Once they relaunched, that sold out in a couple of hours. So they did manage to sell out the drop, but there was a lot of angry people who said, well, I bought in at 3 ETH, I bought in at 2.8 ETH, I bought in 2.7 ETH. And now, I could have just bought it for 2 ETH today on the open market. I'm already down. Let's see how the community recovers. Let's see what happens with CloneX and that reveal. It is a big brand drop. They still generated over $50 million in the sale. So there's a lot of anticipation. It's a very high quality avatar project. It's a 3D avatar project and a lot of ambition around it, but not the best start for a well-regarded team.
Well, has there been, I feel like besides art blocks, the Dutch auction really has not worked out for most. Is that a fair statement? I mean, there's let's go Gary Vaynerchuk, Dutch auction, not successful. These guys, not successful. Bungie project, not successful. I mean, maybe we should just go away with Dutch auctions.
Maybe. Few have managed to pull it off. Mutant API Club was on a Dutch auction, which worked really well. Sold it kind of like the 2.5 ETH price. Meebits did it on a Dutch auction, and that went well. So they're kind of playing out of that playbook, but kind of don't know if they had the brand the brand gravitas that they thought they had, or technical difficulties did really cost them the Dutch auction.
Right, and then we won't know the answer, but I think Bored Ape Yacht Club, right, is I think a different animal. They didn't even promote the drop. They just dropped it in their Discord and said, we're going live today. And I'm sure most people didn't even know about it, right? And they still sold out in however long it was. I think it was like 30 minutes or something like that.
Yep.
So the price didn't really even get a chance to drop. It was they could have just straight up said, we're going to sell this at 3 ETH, or even probably at this point 5 ETH, and people would have bought it. There would have been enough demand, especially if
Correct.
But yeah, I don't not a fan of the Dutch auction. I get the gamification of it, but I guess from that perspective, you're kind of riling up the community right away, especially if you don't sell out right away, right? And now you have people who paid 3 ETH, everybody else paid 1.5 ETH, and you're gonna have people, especially in this day and age, dropping, right? They're like, I'll take the loss and I'll start selling on OpenSea. So unless you're 100% sure this is like the right project and this is gonna sell out, not a fan of the Dutch auction.
Well, you heard it here first. That was the artifact drop. Not a fan of Dutch auctions. Didn't go so well. Let's see how they recover. But an interesting project to watch and see on the reveal how the response is. And, even if you paid 3 ETH, if you maybe get one of the lucky rarer kinds, I think you'll be good on your money.
Yeah, and just so for kind of new viewers, just so some people don't know, when you do mint something, most of the time you're not sure what you're getting, and you have an opportunity to get something that is rare or super rare. And for a gentleman like Yossi who spent 3 Ethereum, he might get something that's worth 5 Ethereum or 10 Ethereum or maybe 100 Ethereum, right? He might mint something that there's only a few of them around, or maybe even a one of one, and all of a sudden he looks like the smartest guy in the room by minting early.
We are playing the NFT lottery and seeing whether we hit the numbers. That's the game in the pre-mint world, and it's a strategy, but other people like to wait for the post-reveal and go and snipe up a rare NFT at a premium, but thinking that long-term that premium will be good if people are flipping what they managed to get revealed and taking on that as well. So those are the 2 approaches. Those are the 2 strategies. We went in early on this one. And let's see what happens there. That is all I think we have for this week. It's a lot. We've dropped some alpha. We spoke about Tezos, Solana, new chains, new drops, up and comers. Keep subscribing to the show. Reminder that doing so, hitting that subscribe button and talking to your friends about goats in the metaverse will get you in line to win the Gold Vault. $57,000 roughly worth of NFTs in that vault up for grabs. So tell your mom, tell your friends, tell your cousin, tell your neighbor about
Smash that button.
The metaverse.
Smash that button.
Smash it.
Yossi, always a pleasure. Thanks to everybody tuning in to watch it, and we'll see you guys next week for another live episodes of Goats in the Metaverse.